Welcome to turning a moment into a movement.
Hey. Hi, Reverend Tia.
Well, hello there. How are you?
I'm great. How about yourself?
I am wonderful. I'm so excited to be here tonight. The master. How are you?
Hey, Matt.
Ghetto fabulous, ladies. Ghetto fabulous. You know, hey, y'all, got my suit on and everything. See?
You looking mighty dapper. You looking mighty dapper.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
That means
Attorney Matt, you have on your work attire.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Hey, these are my work clothes right here. Now, 99.9% of the time y'all see me in my street clothes, but tonight y'all in for a rare treat. These are my work clothes.
This is what you look like when they call the Freedom Line.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
I hear you work in both your street clothes and your work clothes.
This is true. Okay. Hey, look, y'all. I tell you, I'm proud to say, over 47,000 lawyers in the state of Michigan. I'm probably the only one that got regular business hours from 9 p.m. to 3 a.m. Monday through Friday, okay, and 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. on Friday and Saturdays.
The Freedom Line.
Yeah, see, that's right. See, because I represent the for real people, y'all. The for real people. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Uh-huh. You know, and like I said, I don't mean to monopolize. Well, actually, yes, I do. But anyway, but all I'm trying to say is, when I went to law school, a lot of my contemporaries, they aspired to represent people that drive fancy cars over bridges. I always knew from get-go I was going to represent people sleeping under them bridges, and so that's okay, and that's okay. God has been good. God has been good. So we all right. And I'm proud for the Freedom Line, y'all. Now, maybe the two of you ladies know somebody who might have utilized my services. I don't know. So I'm saying.
That would be us. We got you on speed dial, Attorney Mack. Don't tell them what's going to happen out here.
Right.
We got to turn moments into a movement. So we got to keep you on speed dial.
Amen. Right. Well, praise God for that. Praise God.
I must say, I had to call the Freedom Line. I'm just saying, people, it works. The number works.
Well, praise God for that. Praise God for that.
Yes.
Yeah, my pastor says it works if you work it. And then we say it works if you work you put your fingers to work on that phone and call that Freedom Line. Let it work for you.
That's right. Amen. Well, praise God for that. Praise God.
Yes.
Hey, but we all in this together, ladies. We all in this thing together. You know.
I know that's right. So welcome everyone, all those that's watching on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube, and those who might watch us later on. We want to say hello, welcome. I'm J Love. Reverend Tia and Attorney Hugo Mack is here tonight. Trische is off because tomorrow is the summit. The summit. Let me put that up on the screen. Yes, tomorrow, you guys. It's the Wrongful Conviction Summit. Join us at 11 a.m. The door is going to open at 10:30, but be there at 11. We're starting on time at 11 because we have a packed program. Reverend Tia is the MC.
I can't wait.
So be there. Attorney Mack gonna be there with some cards. You're gonna have some free to line cards, Attorney Mack.
Hey, J Love, tell me you want me to disagree here. Okay.
So you guys, I mean, we're laughing. It's a serious situation, but I mean, hey, sometimes you gotta laugh to keep from crying.
That's true.
And,
That's true.
The state of these wrongful convictions and that's going on. We have to laugh when we get an opportunity. But for real, join us tomorrow at 11 a.m. at Gethsemane Missionary Baptist Churches in Westland. I think it's like off of Middle Belt. So join us tomorrow. We're looking forward.
Real people, real stories, right?
Yes, real people, real stories. Yes, Reverend.
J Love, what is the easiest way to get there from Ann Arbor? Because when I was trying to go to something, I got caught up on the expressway. It was all messed up. Should I just try to go 94 to Telegraph or something like that?
94 to Middle Belt.
Okay, 94 to Middle Belt. Okay.
Yeah. Telegraph, you too far away.
Okay.
So yeah. So also,
is there a Middle Belt exit, or I can see Haggerty. I can't see the Middle Belt exit.
There's a Middle Belt exit off of 94.
Yep, it is. That's funny how my mind sees Wayne Road, Vining Road.
So
going down I-94.
Yes, off of 94. Like you're going to the airport, but come back the other way. Yeah.
Yep. There it is. Thank you, Jay.
Yep. You're welcome. Our mission is to bring awareness to all that are impacted from being wrongly convicted, over sentenced, mentally ill, and medically frail in our community. To inspire, organize, and educate all communities about the needs to disrupt systems, policies, and patterns of the criminal legal system that leads to wrongful convictions. That's why we're here every Friday, you guys. So I'm so excited. I want to bring on our guest. Like, yes. But she was here before. She has wrote an awesome book called Reversing Your Criminal Conviction and Develop Your Winning Strategy. Has 20 years of experience, probably 20 plus years of experience. And we are so happy that she's joining us tonight to talk about this amazing book. And again, I'm gonna put it back on the screen. If you guys don't have this book, Reversing Your Criminal Conviction, go to Amazon and click on it and get it now. It's like $12.95, but the book is an awesome blueprint to use and to fight your wrongful conviction, because, and she states in the book, like, you also have to be your own advocate. And so there's things that you should know what's going on this journey for wrongful conviction. So to welcome to Turning a Moment to a Movement again, Attorney Elizabeth Franklin Best. Yay!
It's really great to see all of y'all again. I remember you, Attorney Mack, from the last time I was here. So it's great to see you again.
Same here, counsel. Same here.
Always, it's good to see Jay. So Yeah, thanks for having me back.
Yeah, so you wrote this since you've been gone. We saw you last year, and you
Yeah.
wrote this amazing book. An easy read. It's very easy read.
Mm-hmm.
Reversing your criminal conviction.
Yeah, so as I told you kind of earlier, the point of it really was, you have kind of the same conversations with people over and over and over again. And, it just struck me. I mean, there's so many people who, they just have no idea like what happens after somebody gets convicted. Everyone's been watching Law and Order. I mean, they watch TV, they know what a trial is, and, everyone kind of understands that front end of it. But then, once somebody gets convicted, I mean, people, their families, they have no idea like what comes next. And, like I'll get phone calls where somebody's like, my son just got convicted yesterday. What do I do now? And, it's like, okay, so here's what is going to happen now. You're going to need to file that notice of intent to appeal. And here are all the, ways that you can begin to challenge that conviction. And so, the point of the book is just to kind of educate people on, the kinds of things that I think those of us who work in the criminal justice system, at this point kind of take for granted. But it's not, it's not common knowledge. People don't know what direct appeals are. They don't know what federal post-conviction is. They don't know what state post-conviction is. They don't know what compassionate release is. They don't know, clemency and commutation. So this was just to kind of try to fill in some of that knowledge gap, so that people, when they find themselves in this system, they can begin to kind of think more deeply about their situation and start, strategizing and just, thinking through how they're going to successfully challenge this conviction. And so that's sort of the point of it. I mean, it was, I wanted it to be short. I wanted it just to kind of be, here's the information you need, cut and dry. It's not supposed to be exhaustive. I mean, I think at each level, there are many other authors who do much deeper, analyses of those particular legal remedies. But this is just a good kind of bird's eye view of what happens.
Yeah, I think I like it because you you make it plain enough so anyone can grasp the knowledge, but you also give people like a thing to think about when you're talking about the core injustices.
Yeah,
looking for your core injustices. Like those are things that people, because you get so caught up in the story, right? And when people are talking about their story, they're focused on like we're talking about wrongful convictions. So a lot of times you hear the person, they're focused on the innocence. They're innocent. Okay, we get it. But there's some core things that you need to be focusing on, because you have to look at your case as the court look at the case, and not as how our human eyes look at the case. And
and I'll tell you, so you see this a lot, like, somebody who's gone through this process, right? I mean, they've been arrested, they've gone to trial, or they've just had a really terrible experience. And it's easy to get like really kind of emotional about it, right? I mean, sometimes people like, they see the investigator and they know that guy's a liar, and they hate that person. And all of a sudden, it's become really kind of personal. Which is a completely human response, right? I mean, we get it, but sometimes that can cloud your judgment, right? I mean, you got to kind of look and see, like, where did this process, this adversarial process, this trial, where did it really break down? Maybe it broke down with a lying investigator, but maybe it was your lawyer. Maybe you received ineffective assistance of counsel. So you need to kind of make sure that you're focusing on the issues that can really move your case forward. And it's one reason why they need lawyers, right? I mean, is to kind of sort of pull yourself back from that emotional piece, and begin to kind of start looking more objectively at your case, because you're going, when we think about a conviction, right, and trying to reverse a conviction, it's a process. I mean, maybe, hopefully you win it on direct appeal, but if you don't, you're going to go into state post-conviction. And if you don't win it there, you're going into federal habeas. And so you need to kind of, you need to start thinking about how all of this works together and what your narrative is going to be. I mean, you always have to think of it, I think, in terms of kind of like literary terms. You got to figure out who the bad guys are. You got to figure out who the good guys are. You got to make sure you don't, not everyone's an enemy. You got to figure out whose role was what, and just kind of make sure that you're being consistent throughout. I mean, one thing I write about in the book is, if you've got, if you're throwing everything up against the wall, right? And so, you're saying I wasn't there, but if I was there, it was self-defense. That's the kind of thing that I think the court looks at and then starts not taking you so seriously. Right? I mean, and at the end of the day, you've got to convince these human beings that there's been, a real miscarriage of justice, that something has really flown off the tracks. And unless you're kind of, precise and narrow and focused on what that story is going to be, it's really easy for the court to say, we see this all the time, move along. And, it ought not to be that way.
Right.
But it is, and that's another thing I want to kind of, sort of bring home to people. I mean, I'm not saying that the system is perfect or anything like that. I mean, it is what it is. And, the courts deal with, thousands of cases. And so you've got to create something that, that pulls you out of that, out of the whole group of people. And you've got to bring something to the table that they can just sort of look at, and see what the problems are, so that they can release. And I've seen this a lot with some jailhouse lawyers, right? I mean, they do sometimes some really beautiful work. But I think we've all seen like that 50-page, document that they're filing up in the Michigan Supreme Court or the United States Supreme Court. And the court is just never going to grant relief on that kind of a document, because you're just not getting to the point. You don't need to start off your petition with all of this case law that the court knows. You need to start off with the narrative. You need to start off with the story. You need to start off with, where things went wrong, and it's got to be compelling, and you're talking to human beings, and you need them to see the wrongfulness of what is going on. You've got to, even though they're judges, they're humans, and you've got to appeal to their humanity.
Yeah. One of your principles is to, your case needs to be focused on the facts, and what you're just talking about, and not the law, but the facts of the case.
Yeah. I mean, it's stories move people, right? I mean, that's how, that's what human beings are about. We're about storytelling. That's how, historically we've communicated with one another. And so we just kind of have to get back some time, I think, to those first principles, and just remember that at the end of the day, this is a story that we need other people to hear and understand, and then exercise their power to correct.
Yeah. I want to ask you about, and we'll get back to the book, because I know you worked with death row.
Yeah.
People that were on death row. And so we just had the, and we still have a couple of people that's coming up to be executed. But the Marcellus Williams case, what are your thoughts on that one?
I gotta tell you, I mean, so I'm here in South Carolina, right? And we just had our first execution in 11 years 2 weeks ago. And we're getting ready to have another one on November 1st. And the execution that's coming on November 1st is probably the least aggravated capital case, maybe in the country. I mean, he and his friend walked into a convenience store to rob it, but they didn't have a gun. I mean, they went in unarmed. The clerk pulled out his gun and they wrestled with it, and the gun went off. And so Richard Moore is getting ready to get executed for that. Happened back in 1999. We've got 2 others who will likely be getting execution dates within the next 2 months. I mean, so South Carolina has just cranked it up. I have 2 cases down in Mississippi. They're getting ready. They're asking for another execution down there for an inmate who has been a mentor for a lot of the other men on death row. He's been there for 25 years. So all this is to say, I'm not completely up to speed on Marcellus Williams' case because we've really been dealing with kind of a lot down here in the South right now. It's pretty bad. And I think I think if Trump wins this election, it's going to get even worse. I think there's movement afoot. Right now, the only cases that qualify for the death penalty are, murder plus cases, which is to say you got to have a murder and then you got to have aggravated circumstances, right? So not garden variety murders, but they have to be particularly bad murders. Well, in the past, there have been efforts to try to expand that universe of cases to include things like rape of children. That was the last case that came up to the United States Supreme Court. If Trump is back in the White House and with the Supreme Court that we have now, I would expect there to be additional challenges to, again, expand that universe of people who may qualify for the death penalty. Trump has already said that he wants, illegal, aliens who hurt American citizens. And then he's also talked about drug dealers.
Right.
So we may see, a huge ramping up of capital punishment in this country.
Yeah, he has been saying that for the longest about, drug people convicted of drug cases, giving them the death penalty.
That's what they do in the Philippines, right? I mean, this is just like complete dictatorial kind of, being tough on crime kind of policy. I mean, it's alarming. It's alarming, and it's going to be very expensive.
Yeah, Attorney Matt. I mean, I have posed a question to him today about people in the wrongful conviction community who are bringing up the point that the VP Kamala Harris has a connection to some wrongful convictions, right?
Yeah.
And that's their, gripe about her. And
No, I know. I mean, I was not team Kamala. Her tenure as Attorney General in California, and she was in charge of the whole death machinery there, and there were some wrongful convictions that she just sort of let go ahead. Yeah, I mean, there is no easy answer here, but I've just I've made my decision that despite some of the reservations I have about her, it's going to be better than
Well,
the alternative.
yeah, because and I bring this up because as we're speaking on that, Trump picks for Supreme Court has made it harder to fight wrongful convictions.
Oh, almost impossible. I mean, this last term, well, I mean, there were kind of a couple of developments, but most recently is Shin versus Ramirez, which got rid of kind of the mechanism by which you would introduce new evidence in wrongful conviction cases in federal habeas. So, no longer are you entitled to any evidentiary hearing in federal court to assess new evidence. And so, I do federal habeas work in South Carolina. And I mean, I had to tell clients, I'm like, we cannot introduce new evidence in federal habeas anymore. I can't go and do the research or do the investigation and bring in the affidavits and bring in the witnesses. I can't do that anymore. So here's how we're going to handle it. And what we're doing is we're filing in federal habeas. And then while we're in court, we're getting investigators to go out and redo state investigations, trying to generate new evidence that we can then present to the state court and then try to get it back up into federal court that way. I mean, it's, people are trying to kind of find the workarounds. I mean, we're trying to find ways to, creative ways to lawyer in order to get some of these claims up in the federal courts. Because, I mean, state court's a hard place to win at sometimes.
Right.
You're much closer to the politics of it all. And, it's sometimes it just has its own unique set of challenges. So that's one thing they did. I mean, there's, another case recently where they sort of shut down the ability to use the 2241, which was one of the statutes that we would try to, it's one of the federal habeas statutes. And it was sort of a way, like if somebody had already exhausted their 2255, they would use a 2241 to try to, get relief. And the courts were just like, no, we're not interested in that. You're not going to be able to do that. And so, I mean, the consequence there is that, I mean, there's some people who are like literally not guilty of crimes who have absolutely no legal remedy to get back into court.
Yeah.
And they don't, and so this is what our Supreme Court's doing. I know because I'm on the amicus committee for the Fourth Circuit for the National Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers. And, a few years ago, we had people trying to get our assistance in taking cases up to the Supreme Court quite often. I don't think we've had one in 2 years.
Wow.
And I think it's because criminal defense attorneys are like, we don't want any of our cases going up there. This court is just going to use it as an opportunity to make bad law. That's where we're at. And I don't mean to be like so negative. I mean, I hear myself sometimes and I'm like, okay, stop it, Betsy. I mean, because, people do still win. You just have to be, I think, a lot more intelligent and just, strategic about how you're going to challenge your convictions. I think the closer, your federal court, your federal district court, and your state courts are probably where you're going to have your best shot at winning. I don't know anyone. I'm just trying to think if I even know like a criminal defendant who's gotten a favorable outcome in the U.S. Supreme Court. I can't even think of one.
Wow. Attorney Mack.
Well, we spoke earlier and you brought up VP Harris. Well, as a person who ran for county prosecutor, I understand the dynamics of the job. Okay, so in any system, there's going to be anecdotes in any system, because of the volume of cases that are there. Okay, and I agree with everything counsel was saying, but I just have my own little nuances on this also. You see, so. It all starts really with the psyche of the country, of the country, okay? And really, the psyche of the country is everybody is responsible for themselves. In other words, most people, for example, of means, okay, if you ask them about their means, they describe themselves as a self-made man or woman, okay? Came up from nothing, came here from Europe, and I'm talking about Caucasians now saying this, although there's a goodly percentage of black people saying it too, okay? Came up from nothing, okay? Worked hard, got where they were because they worked harder and were smarter than other people, okay? And part of it is that as a criminal defense attorney, so much I have to overcome is a group of people on a jury veneer that are more fascinated with stopping to look at a fire than doing something to help somebody get out of the burning house. Okay. So in other words, hell, it ain't me. You know, it's good theater. It ain't me. Okay. So as long as it's not me, you know, and, you know, I don't mean to try to denigrate human beings to the level of animals, but I'm an old Eagle Scout, okay, you know, in nature and everything, okay? And it's amazing how, for example, a herd of wildebeest, all right, will see a lion attack a wildebeest and just watch. Just watch. Just watch. When if they work for their collective good, 3 or 4 of them wildebeest will stomp that lion into the ground. But it's something about the culture that will make you want to stop and see it happen to somebody else. Okay. And that is part of that European, although I'm not putting it all off on Europeans because Africans, people from Africa do it too. Like I said, it's me and mine. As long as it's not me and mine, it's just good theater. And so part of the problem that I've confronted for 40 some odd years is that people coming into a jury veneer, I mean, people that like driver's licenses and what have you, those people are there for theater. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. They're there for theater because look, I've had to take off work. I'm not going to get but about $6 for half a day here. Okay. I'm sitting up here with people in this room. All right. Some of them, you know, maybe breath ain't the freshest as morning dew, you know, and they're passing gas, whatever, or whatever they're doing in there. Right now, damn it, I'm getting something out of this. Right. And I've had people that were actually pissed at me for kicking them off the jury because, damn it, you wasted my whole day. And so what I'm saying is part of it is that culture. And when they get on that jury, they want to be entertained. And part of the problem is that with that, as long as it's not me and mine, I want to be entertained. Americans like to see other people squirm. Okay. You know, I'm an old athlete and, you know, just saying, you know, it's only funny till somebody gets hurt. Then it's hilarious. Okay. Because they want to see somebody else get the screws put to them. And so any criminal defense attorney will tell you that's part of the obstacle that's got to overcome because they look at the police and the prosecutor are the ones putting the screw to somebody, okay? And unless you can make a connection with somebody on that jury, I agree with what counsel said a moment ago. These are human beings, but they come in with a prejudice of, I'm spending my tax dollars, I'm paying for this courtroom, I'm paying for that judge, I'm paying for this prosecutor. I would not be paying these people if they were incompetent, okay? I would not be paying these people if they were incompetent. So the truth of the matter is that most jurors come in with in the back of their mind where there's smoke, there's fire. And the only one on the griddle is the one sitting next to the defense attorney. Okay. And so I'm sorry, folks, that's just the truth. And so trying to overcome that in the first place, okay, that's the biggest hurdle. That's the biggest hurdle of stopping a wrongful conviction is the mindset of the people that are sitting in judgment in the first place, okay? And then you add into that race, economic status, sex, you know, that they're just predisposed to believe, you know, once upon a time, and it's terrible, and it still happens today, you know, there was a disposition about women that, well, she was asking for it. Shouldn't have been there. Shouldn't have had that short skirt on. You know, what the hell is she doing at a bar by herself in the first place? All right. Which is terrible. And that still goes on today. But the problem is that we have, and I'm specifically addressing Black folks here now, all right, is that we somehow have still not realized that the best way to protect ourselves from an unjust system is to not play the game. Don't play the game, okay? Don't play the game. Because that's my message, particularly young Black men in Southeastern Michigan. Don't play the game. So what do you mean by that? Hey, look, sure, you got a right to be with your friends at 3 o'clock in the morning, riding around, whatever. Sure. But in some neighborhoods, like sundown cities, that they've got them in Michigan, by the way, okay? Why are you there? Well, I got a right to be there. It's not about your rights. It's about being able to get home safely and being out of that situation. So that's the thing that I struggle with particularly young Black males, and people, coming into puberty, testosterone, want to puff themselves up, ain't no cop going to talk to me any way they want. Oh, yes, they will. Oh, yes, they will. Oh, yeah, at the point of a billy club or a Glock, if necessary. So the question is, you're not going to outmuscle them, so you have to outthink them. That's all. So in any event, J-Love, and esteemed members of the panel, as from criminal defense attorney point of view, my number one message is don't play the game because it's rigged. Don't play. If you got to go around the block another way to avoid trouble with the people that they don't like you and like them, go around the block. Go around the block and quit judging your manhood, okay, by either the dog you've got on the end of a leash, or how much you can puff up yourself in front of somebody else. Graveyard is full of young men who have done that. And the prison is even more fuller of young men who reacted to that. So that's my preamble, J-Love. Teach our kids, don't get involved in the game in the first place.
Yeah. Go ahead, Reverend Tia.
Yeah, and I like that. And thank you, Elizabeth. I'm so glad you're back. And the book is phenomenal. I'm getting ready to send out more information about it. And I hope we're going to have maybe a flyer or something so they can at least go to your site and order it even tomorrow, if they haven't done so yet. The thing is that Attorney Mack, you're right. Not playing the game. A lot of times people will say, well, the system is broken. And it's not. The system is not. But those who are within the system are broken people. So a lot of times we have broken people at the helm of the system. And we're talking about a mass psychosis, like Attorney Mack was alluding to, where people are not in their right mind and have been bamboozled into believing narratives that will keep them in harm's way. And so when it comes to, and it's a sad thing that today we are still talking about sundown towns. It's absolutely ridiculous that I had to have a conversation with my children. So before I give you the keys to the car, you've done nothing but A's and maybe a few B's in your whole life. You're doing well in your athletics and all of your goals, reaching your dreams, your goals, and achieving all that you can. And yet, when it comes time for me to give you the keys, after you've gone to driver's training, I have to reiterate, because it's not like I could say, wait till you get to drive. Mommy's so excited about you driving. I don't get to do that. No, from the time they were 3 on up, I had to let them know, well, this is why we don't come here at night. This is what we don't do. This is what you don't do. This is not your area after a certain time. And let me tell you something. It's not just going to sundown towns. There's some towns in some areas that we can't go to. I don't care what you are, that you shouldn't go to, because people are not wanting to love and support other people or make it a safe environment. That's not everywhere, but there are some places. And the thing about it is, if growing up in Detroit, I knew all the different areas, and my mother forbade us to go to Dearborn. When they built Fair Lane, she said, you better not. Why? Because that was the most prejudiced city that she knew growing up. And you better not. We couldn't spend a dime out there. So I say that because what Elizabeth is talking about is phenomenal, because it's like she says in the book, it's a strategy. And we have to be strategic. What is an eye opener is when you hear the attorney speaking today on what level we have to be strategic, because we no longer have the backing of a Supreme Court for what we would be fighting for.
Right.
I'm just breaking that down so they know y'all don't have nobody that's going to take care of you. They don't got your back. Right. They don't got your back. And you need to know that. Yeah. So, like you said, it's at the state level, it's at a local level. How do we win? What is one of the main mistakes or missteps? I don't want to say mistakes, but missteps that people make when they are getting ready to do or go after an appeal?
So that's, I mean, you know, that's a great question. I mean, and you know, going into the appeal is part of like this whole process of like reversing the conviction, right? I mean, there's the appeal, there are these other pieces of it too. You know, what's the most important thing to either overturn a conviction or to keep a wrongful conviction from ever happening is, in my view, investigation. And I find that a lot of people who were charged with crimes, and, you know, maybe, you know, oftentimes there is this, you know, denial that kind of, you know, it's really painful to be charged with a crime. I mean, it's terrifying. It's, you know, it causes shame. You know, people are embarrassed by it, and, you know, the consequences can be just so terrifying. And I think a lot of people kind of shut down, and I think they don't really necessarily start thinking, you know, at that very beginning point, like what it's going to take to kind of to, you know, to watch yourself, to help yourself out. And so, you know, maybe they'll hire a lawyer, maybe they'll have a public defender, and then they just kind of like put it out of their minds, right? And oftentimes they're not really involved in this process, and they're not thinking, you know, how am I going to prove my innocence? Because I really think in the American system, you have to prove your innocence. I don't care what the law is. I think that is something that defendants really sort of have to show. And, you know, I think if you're going to make sort of a good, you know, run at it, you got to get your own investigator, and you got to go get your own witnesses, and you got to bring your own case into the courtroom. And, you know, it's just the truth of it. I mean, whenever I hear, you know, somebody say, well, what was your defense at trial? Oh, I just decided to, you know, argue reasonable doubt. I'm like, well, then you didn't walk in with a defense, because you really have got to do more. I mean, is it alibi? I was there. It was self-defense. I mean, what is your defense? And then marshal your evidence. You know, people don't realize like they can actually call their own witnesses, you know, and you don't have to like show the government everything you got, you know, and sometimes you can really sort of shake them up when you have an aggressive kind of trial strategy like that. You know, I was having a conversation with a friend the other night. I was like, you know, a lot of these prosecutors are just incredibly arrogant. You know, they feel like they got God on their side, and they're just going to go in there. They got their cops. I mean, they're all like, you know, buddy. But, you know, you go in there with some of your own witnesses, it will shake them. Mm-hmm. And, you know, and you can make a good run of it. But I think people aren't aggressive enough in trials. And then when they're convicted, the appeal always has to be kind of focused on what actually happened at the trial. So you can't introduce any new evidence there. But when you're in state post-conviction, that's another opportunity to bring your witnesses in and to bring any other evidence that you may have. And those are, it amazes me the extent to which I read transcripts where, the accused never puts up anything. Now, they don't have to. I mean, I know the law, you don't have to. You don't have to say anything. You don't have to do anything, all the rest of it. I mean, that's, your constitutional rights. But I think people are losing opportunities by not being more aggressive on that front end. So I'm curious, Attorney Mack, what you kind of think about that. It sounds like you've done more kind of trial stuff than I have. I mean, I used to do trial stuff, but I've been out of that world for a while.
Well, I agree with you 100%. You see, because for me, first starting out my career in the public defender's office, aggression was the call of the day.
That's exactly right. I mean, that's how I started too. That's
right.
That's where
see, aggression was the cause of the day, because you're exactly right. The police and prosecutors work together. Okay, fingers on the same hand. All right. Mm-hmm. So the camaraderie that's there, and far too often with judges also. I mean, in my younger days, I was chastised by a now deceased Washtenaw County Circuit Court judge because I was challenging a police officer and what he was saying. And I was chastised, you need to have respect for the police, So the only thing that he didn't say was boy, okay? You need to have respect for the police, in his mind, boy, or worse. I mean, let's not forget the capital N word, okay? Okay. So what I'm saying is that a lot of it really comes down to the character of the person you've got representing you, to be very honest about it. You see, because I attribute my success, I'm certainly not patting myself on the back, was my character is basically one of confrontation. See, I grew up, I never liked bullies, I never liked bullies. And my mother, my late mother, instilled in me and my older brother, hey, stand up for what's right, sons. Stand up for what's right. Even if it doesn't directly involve you, because if you don't let it involve you, one day it really might. It really might. You know what I'm saying? And so part of me started reading all the police reports, I started practicing law, and I'm seeing a pattern in some of these policemen, trial after trial after trial after trial. It's almost like a script. And then a light bulb started going off, said, oh, this is scripted. This is protocol for them. So you've got to have an attorney that is willing to be confrontational from the get-go. I mean, for example, I just give you this, counsel can tell you, we don't need to spend the next 5 hours of war stories for me, but one example was this. I was defending a man that was accused of CSC with a teenage girl, all right? And what happened is they would assign from like the victims advocacy program and the prosecutor, like an aide, a liaison and stuff like that. So what they intended to do was, now remember, every witnesses are sequestered. In other words, they're away from each other. They're not supposed to be able to hear what each other say. What this prosecutor wanted to do was bring this person in with an aide. In other words, imagine yourself in a courtroom, all right? There's a door from the hallway to the courtroom, all right? Every other witness comes through that door, walks up to the witness stand, gets sworn in, and takes oath. This prosecutor wanted to parade this woman this girl in with an aide. And I said, no, Judge, no. Little Helen Johnson, she's got 2 feet. She can walk in the door. She's not an invalid. She's not crippled. She can walk in the door, go up to the witness stand, take oath like everybody else. And you might say, well, Attorney Mack, what does that mean? It means a lot. It means a lot. Because what counsel said was very true. these are human beings. And I'm saying this, if I'm sitting on a jury and I've listened to a prosecutor's opening statement about how this poor person has been victimized by this fiend sitting next to Mr. Mack, and then I get the visual of somebody having to be assisted to come into the courtroom, I'm saying, well, wait a minute. Why does she need assistance if something really didn't happen here? So what I'm saying is that's aggression, okay? That's aggression. And another thing was, I would never allow the prosecutor to refer to the complaining witness as the victim.
Yeah.
Now, see, you see, I would never allow them because, you know, when they're introducing the parties, well, you know, you're going to hear from Officer Johansson and you're going to hear from medical technician Smithers, and then you're going to hear from the victim. Never let that happen. Never let that happen. You're going to hear from the complaining witness, whoever he or she is. So it's those kind of things that set the tone, the narrative. And prosecutors have been masterful of taking advantage of attorneys who just aren't up on their game to be aggressive from the very beginning. And another thing, if you have a defense attorney who is not aggressive from the very beginning, that sends a clear signal to the judge too. A clear signal to the judge that this man or woman is really going to go along to get along, okay? And so, you know, it's caused me to be castigated by judges and have them slam their hand down on their desk and dismiss the jury. I had a judge dismiss the jury 3 times on me. Anyway, it was a drunk driving case, right? He was so pissed. He dismissed the jury 3 times on me, you know. Oh, and by the way, the verdict in that case, not guilty. So
yeah, that's right. I mean, I was having a conversation with a friend, and they're like, you know, what kind of lawyer should I get? You know, what kind? I was like, look, you don't have to get the one that's got the 40 or 50 years experience. You don't have to get the high paid one, but you need one who's scrappy.
that's right.
You know, you need somebody who's like willing to just kind of like go in there and pick a fight.
Right.
You
That's
know,
right.
and I think, you know, some of the best lawyers that I've seen are the ones who are like really kind of starting off in their careers, and they just are having fun with it because, you know, they've got a lot of energy and they're picking fights and they're doing really good work. So yeah.
Go ahead, Rabbit T. I saw you post.
Yeah, I know that. This is great conversation because, first of all, Attorney Mack, language matters, right? The language matters, you know, that is so key. And a lot of times, I think that citizens take a more docile approach to going into the courtroom, but you need somebody who's going to, you know, to be a bulldog in the courtroom, right? Because what happens for the person who was accused, they're advised to remain calm and composed, to avoid coming across as uncooperative or hostile, because this could have a negative influence on the judge or the jury or the public opinion. And is aggression interpreted as guilt? Is it an attempt to divert from the facts? Because these are some issues that, you know, especially if the person is innocent, and yet they're told to remain calm. We got you. I tell everybody, do not try to go. They'll think, but I'm innocent. I'm okay. I really don't need to pay for a lawyer.
Yeah. I got one woman who, you know, turned down a 5-year plea offer. He's doing 30 years now. And, you know, just didn't really, she just figured, you know, she was innocent. The system works. She's not going to be convicted. Why would she do 5 years? Well, I mean, they convicted her anyway. She is innocent, by the way, completely innocent. And tried to get her out, and our Supreme Court wouldn't go for it. Turned down 5 years.
Wow. I mean, it makes you think, what's the use of having the Supreme Court right now? What is it supreme over? That's why we say every week, local elections matter, right?
Oh, goodness, yes.
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 And most people stay home or sleep on those local elections. But those local elections, when you're getting your local judges and your local, your governor, your prosecutor, the mayor, police chiefs in some areas. Some mayors appoint the police chief, but all of this stuff is important, especially now with this Supreme Court. And then also, piggybacking where you were talking about having a lawyer yes, you fighting for your life. You're fighting for your life. We're talking about all of a sudden, all of these executions are just 1, 2, 3, 4. They're like back to back to back all of a sudden. So you're literally fighting for your life.
Yeah.
So yes, you need a lawyer. Yes, you need to investigate. You say in a book about you need to know what you did wrong, what happened, but also you need to know what they knew. Because you're fighting for your life.
Right.
This is important. You cannot have stuff. You cannot think that what you see on TV is going to happen in the courtroom. That is not. This is not CSI and on the court TV shows. It does not work that way. You have the prosecutor and the police and even judges. They're all hang out together. They're gonna go to lunch after you get 30 years. They're gonna all hang out, party, whatever. That's their work. Just like you have work friends. Those are their work friends and buddies and stuff. Yeah. So you're fighting all of that. All of that to prove your innocence. So yes, you need this book. You need a lawyer. You need this roadmap to success. Because
that's right. I mean, people just, you need to realize that, each of these pieces, right? I mean, you got the trial, and then you got the direct appeal, and then you got your state post-conviction, and then you got your federal habeas. I think most people kind of think of these as like discrete, different parts of, the process, like they stand alone independently, but they don't. At the end of the day, it's the government's case against you, and it's all part of this same organic event. And that's, I want people to sort of think of it in those terms, which is why you've got to figure out, like, where exactly did things sort of fall apart? Was it that I didn't get these witnesses into the courtroom? Was it that my lawyer didn't do such and such? Is it that there's a problem with the judge, the prosecutor? You got to figure out what those key injustices are, like what made everything fly off the rails. How is it that my story of innocence wasn't heard? I mean, it's a simple question, but you got to answer it. And then everything else needs to kind of, bring expression to that and open that up. Because I do believe, I mean, I'm an optimist about many of our appellate courts. I mean, not our Supreme Court right now, but our state appellate courts. I mean, I don't think they want innocent people sitting in prison. But I think the records, and the cases that are filed in their courts don't give them what they need to do the right thing. I don't think the records reveal where things have gone off the tracks. Sometimes I think the evidence that proves someone's innocence, wasn't introduced at the trial and hasn't made it into the record. So that's why, I just think people need to get really clear about what it is that they're trying to achieve, create that record, and then, present it to the court in such a way that they can do what you want them to do.
Mhm.
And, it takes deep thought. You got to be thoughtful about all this. You got to make sure that you are raising internally consistent issues, right? I mean, again, you can't say, I wasn't there, but if I was there, it was an accident. I mean, that sort of thing just immediately loses credibility.
Right.
And so, and those are the easy ones to discard. If you're an appellate court trying to, go through these thousands of documents, when you see something like that, it's easy to say, nothing here, let's move along. I mean, another thing I want to just sort of briefly touch on, because, we're talking about wrongful convictions. Oftentimes, they're just wrongful sentences. And I know at the beginning you talked about some of these really long sentences, but 95% of our cases are resolving by way of guilty pleas now. And those are the easiest ones for the court just to say, all right, nothing new here, move along. And so, I guess I'll take, a little exception to what Ms. Reverend Taylor said earlier about how the system kind of works, but that, there are problems with the people in the system. I mean, I'm kind of firmly of the belief that, the system is just really broken. I think that, I think you can sometimes have well-intentioned people in the system and things still, produce bad outcomes. And I think it's because we've got too many people going through the system. And I think the system just can't operate to mete out justice in any meaningful way anymore. From the time that Ronald Reagan was president and they started the war on drugs, we used to have, 300,000 inmates in prisons in America. And now we have about 2.5 million. And that's over the course of 40 years. So imagine where we're going to be in another 40 years. If we stay on this road, I mean, who else are you going to put in prison?
Right.
And the way that our court systems now, I mean, you show up and, a judge will have 12 or 15 guilty pleas a day. Like, tell me how is justice ever, meted out when a judge is sentencing 12 to 15 inmates a day? I mean, that isn't I don't know what that is, but it is not justice.
I seen that in court of, okay, they will take all these pleas and put them up first just to move them on out the way so they can get to.
It's an assembly line. I mean, there's no, consideration for the individuality or, the unique circumstances of those people. I mean, it is like a factory. It is like a chicken factory. And it's terrible. And so really kind of what I'd like to see is a lot more people exercising their rights to trial.
Right.
And just like bringing it to the government and, putting up their fights. And, I think if you had just like 10% of all criminal defendants insisting on their rights to a trial, I think the system would just break. I don't think there's the money. I don't think they have the people. I mean, I just think that the system would just collapse.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, and when I say broken people, I mean the broken in perception. When you have it from, I believe, leadership, the effects or the impact of leadership trickles down from the head down. And there's an underlying current to that industry, you know, because when you talk about guilty pleas are easy. That means a greater workforce behind bars. That means cheap or free labor.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have insurance, or they're not, no, their families aren't being taken care of, or any of that.
They've lost the right to vote.
Lost the right to vote. Stocks are high because they're on the stock market. The prisons, a lot of these prisons are part of capitalism. And so the more that people plead guilty, because guilty is an easy process, that means this is how I look at it. Now, I could be wrong. I'm looking at it like, okay, everybody's getting paid. Not me. But if there's a guilty plea, easy processing, everybody gets paid leader down in that area. You know, you talk about the judges, you talk about the police, you talk about the prosecuting attorney, and that again, prosecuting attorney, they get paid to create a case. Like I always say, they have to invent it sometimes. They have to make it happen. And for them, many times, I could be wrong. Maybe this is just in what I've been witnessing. They just want to win at all costs, regardless of if the person is innocent or not. Do they care about the innocence? No. We would not be here today if they gave one rat's behind about a person being innocent. They do not care. So we need to I'm not going to pretend that they care. Not anymore. I agree that people need to go to trial. Sometimes they need to go to trial. I had the most ridiculous, I'm gonna tell this. Had the most ridiculous case recently, and I'm not a lawyer. I'm a psychologist. But the people that see me have cases. They have to see. Okay. And this well-known discriminatory policing in Michigan, they thank you so much, Deidre. They have took up, and what they do is they prey upon people who appear to be economically at a disadvantage. Okay. And so they took this family, took the children from the family, because the grandparents didn't want the children to get in trouble. Okay. So the children lied on the parents. Now the parents have cases.
Oh my goodness.
So then when they went to go tell the truth, they wanted to tell the truth. This was the most ridiculous case I had ever seen in my life. They went to tell the truth, and they said, if you tell the truth, we will prosecute you, the child. And so what happens? Now they're scared. Now they're in tears. Why? They're no longer, they've been at home with their mother and father. Look, y'all listen to me. This wasn't people of color. This people need to know this is happening to people all over. If you think wrongful conviction just people of color, you are wrong. It is going cross to everybody. I'm not saying we're not the most incarcerated now. Let me be very clear. But it is happening all over. It's these kinds of intimidating tactics that, so then what happens? Parents still have a record. Still got a record. Still have to do some time. Not as much, but a person who's never been in any trouble, never had anything behind their record, and yet the judge found it easier to say, okay, in fact, they had a plea on the table on the day of the court. The father was going to take the plea. Prosecutor took it back. Took it back. Took it off the table. He said he had never seen a thing like that. So now it's for me, it's helping people to become empowered and walk in their power in the midst of all that. How do you shake that? And because this is trauma upon trauma, you know.
Mhm.
And this is just one small example. Nobody was killed, this is just a small example on how all of these practices cause innocent people to do time, have a record, be on probation. Now you got to get rid of your guns. You got to get rid of everything. You can't do this. You can't do that. Can't go out, have a social drink with your wife. Your anniversary's coming up. Come on now. When
Yeah.
does it stop?
Mm-hmm.
When does it stop? So you're down in South Carolina, right?
Yep.
Now, I can tell y'all that's a culture. That's a cultural, once you get past on the other side, it's a cultural difference.
Oh yeah.
Even when it comes to incarceration. I have a question, Elizabeth. How are you enduring all of that? Do you have a lot of hate mail? What's going on down there? Look, I got people in Gaffney. The Little
Okay.
John. I'm a Little John by nature, and the Little Johns are all over South Carolina. Definitely out of Gaffney,
All
South
right.
Carolina. So
All
when I go down there, I have to, you know, be mild.
Well, I mean, I'll tell you, I started off my career in the public defender's office and really, loved it. And then I did death penalty work for 7 years. No, yeah, 7 years. And I started my own firm about 5 years ago, and part of it was because I had to step away from the trauma.
Yeah.
I mean, it's real, right? I mean, it is hard to be so proximate to all of this without it's having an impact on you. And so when I made a decision. I just needed to get away from that, and I needed to focus on appeals where, luckily I still have, I have more distance, frankly.
Mhm.
And for me personally, I just had to figure out like where can I do the most good?
Mhm.
And it's not being traumatized in a courtroom, it's sort of standing back and having more time to myself and writing books where I can help people and, talking to people like this. But, I don't get the hate mail. I don't, yeah, and it's probably because people just don't really know who I am. I'm just like an appellate lawyer. I'm not somebody who's on TV. I don't
Right.
stand in front of cameras. I don't do anything like that. I just kind of quietly do my thing and, just try to, my own little contribution to the world and trying to help people through this system,
Yeah.
which, it's painful to see. It's painful to watch. It's painful to be close to it. But at the same time, there's just some extraordinary people who are, walking this path, and it's always just sort of an honor to meet other people who are in this space.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Appreciate the work you've done and the book, and we need it. Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I hope it works. Like I'm still waiting. It just came out like last July, I think it was. Like, I'm waiting for somebody to say, "Hey, I did it."
I'm sure you're gonna be getting emails of people and letters saying that this book worked. Because just reading it gives you hope, and then it puts things in perspective. You know, when you're talking about investigate and how important investigations are. You know, if you didn't have anybody. So when you hire an attorney and you having this conversation with your attorney and he's working or she's working, you feel like, okay, what am I supposed to be doing?
Right.
You know? And so this book helps you look at, there's a role for you because the best advocate for you is you.
Yeah.
So there's things that you should know and how you can help with your own, with the process. But it's an empowering to know that you have, there's hope in this whole crazy system that's, as Deidre says, it's intimidating. It's very intimidating, and the whole process is really scary. And you're like, if you never, like myself and many others who never, ever had, any issues or any, you know, relationships or whatever with this system. Now, all of a sudden you're there and you don't have a clue.
Right.
No, and it's so dehumanizing. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
the system itself is so dehumanizing. So you just have to kind of figure out, like, you know, how to keep your agency, you know, within this process. And like, how can I survive this? I mean, it really is survival. And, you know, I'm hoping that, you know, I've made some contribution for people to just kind of, you know, recognize the environment you're in. You know, some people just, I feel like they just kind of sleepwalk into their convictions, you know, but you gotta wake up and you gotta, you know, really kind of come out swinging.
Right. Because you gotta have, you fighting. Ain't that right, Attorney Mack?
Gotta keep these punches coming.
Ain't that right, Attorney Mack? You gotta fight.
Oh,
your mic is not on, Attorney Mack. Turn on your mic.
J Love, I'm so used to you muting me on your own. Hey, J Love, I just said I'd try to help mute my damn self first. No, I'm just kidding. But look here. Part of this discussion, though, let me put on my wannabe prosecutor hat for a minute now, okay? All right. You know, God bless the good people of Washtenaw County. They saw fit to go another direction. And I can just say, while I do respect the will of the people, greatest case of mass hysteria I've ever seen in my life. You know, wanted to demand a recount, you know, but then I can't be like the Orange Man. It's all good. It's all good, you know. So anyway. So let me just throw another side on this, okay?
Okay.
You know, and it's a side that we need to understand as citizens, as people, okay? There are some very bad boys and girls out there in society who could care less about anybody on this panel or our families. Now, all of us freedom fighters, we want justice, you know, we want equity, you know. We don't just want equality, we want equity. There's a difference between the two. You know, if you put me in a race with 5 world track stars and me, who would have a hard time running 100 yards or getting 100 yards even with my car, you say, well, it's all equal. That's equality. They both starting out, or these 5 track stars, Olympians at Hugo Mack, were both starting out at the starting line, 100-meter dash, okay? Well, that's equality because we're the same starting line. but it's damn sure not equity. See, look, don't put me competing against these people. Put me in the 70 and over class where I can have a chance to win. You understand what I'm saying? Look here. I'll knock a man over in a wheelchair. I ain't got no pride. No, I'm just kidding. See, you know what? Our guests might come away, J Love and Reverend T, thinking, boy, that lawyer is kind of really crazy there. Wow. Wow. He got a license. Wow. So okay. So
what crazy, really?
Yeah. So what I'm saying is, with the prosecutorial understanding that a prosecutor is supposed to be a minister of justice, not an advocate for the police, but a minister of justice. And see, a prosecutor's most unique position in all of lawyerdom, to me, okay? Because they have so much power, and the greatness of power, it's not in showing it, it's the restraint of power. Okay, that's the greatness of the office. Okay, so you're kind of getting my speech to the public in my candidacy. So but what I'm saying is that you have a right to come and go to your homes without an unreasoned fear of somebody breaking in or holding you at knife point, being carjacked. Okay, those things you have a right to. So the balance is, how do we protect people, you good people here, and your rights to do that, while we're maintaining the rights and humanity of people in general? But so now let me switch from that statement as a wannabe prosecutor back to the defense aspect of it. Most of the cases I had were plea bargains. Why is that? Because the system is built on plea bargains. That's why. Now, there were cases where, of course, we went to trial, okay, but only because it was in my client's. Folks, let me just tell you from my few years of experience here. Some clients that I had were so horrendously guilty, okay? And see, I don't get that lost in this conversation here, okay? Because there's people in court that are absolutely guilty. Matter of fact, only charged with a fraction of what they actually did do, okay? But see, me being a defense lawyer and coming from the streets, I know what time it is. Okay? So what I'm saying is, when I've got a client that's facing like 5 or 6 charges, and I know good and doggone well, if we had to go to trial, he's going to get convicted of 5 or 6 charges because the evidence is just that strong, okay? And so in a situation like that, you and I, we can have a discussion about people taking things to trial in the abstract, but you got to remember something. It's going to come down to a very individual decision, okay? A very individual decision. So what I'm saying is, from my own personal experience with the penitentiary, a man or woman has got to make a decision that they're prepared to live with for the rest of their life. Now, I heard counsel talk about a client that she had, offered the lady a 5-year plea agreement. So look, I'm not guilty. I can't do it. Innocent woman
Completely.
ended up being convicted and doing a 30-year sentence.
Yeah.
And that is something. So so I want you to understand something. So when you talk about these plea agreements and there's too many of them, what have you, be very circumspect in that.
Yeah.
Because you got to be in that man or woman's shoes, all right? And so what I'm saying is, I'm the kind of person that would say, whatever the consequence, my integrity is more important than bowing my knee to a lie. But that's me. That's me. There are people who have families. They've got, they say, look, my mom is, in her 80s. If I'm doing 30-year stretch, mama's going to die. And stuff. So what I'm saying is that the challenge of the defense attorney is to try to bring some humanity to the system, you see, because that job is supposed to be the prosecutor's job, but they are woefully deficient in bringing humanity into the system. Because what all y'all are saying is exactly right. what's my conviction ratio? You know, I want to run for attorney general. You know, I've got to be able to show I'm one of them real kick-ass prosecutors. Or worse yet, newsflash, worse yet, I want to run for judge. You know, I've said this for years. I don't know how counsel is in South Carolina, but I've said this for years. When I would look at the candidates for like the Circuit Court of Appeals and the Michigan Supreme Court, if you didn't know better, if you muted, if you just turn the volume down and just look at the, well, I'm backed by the police union, you know, I'm this and that, you'd think these people are running for sheriff. Mm-hmm. And, you know, and that's unfortunate. But once again, and then I'm through, it goes back to what I said about an hour or something ago. It's the culture of our people. We are in a country that makes a person think you got where you are on your own merit. Therefore, you can afford to look down at somebody else. That's what systemic white racism is about. I can be the poorest person from Appalachia, you know, my cousin and I celebrating our 15th anniversary. Okay, I can be all those kind of things as long as I've got somebody that I can look down my nose at least I'm not them. And so what I'm saying is when you've got that culture that is there, you're going to have people that are going to be willing to say, you know what? Maybe they're not guilty, but I'm not going against the flow, you know? I believe the police because when I call somebody to come and help me, I'm calling the police. You know, I'm calling the police. So I've got a kinship to them. If somebody breaks in my house or tries to rob my wife and they catch them, I want that person prosecuted. So it's a system, and which is what I'm saying, and I'm shut up, what I said in the beginning. My message to young Black men specifically, and young men in general, don't play. Don't get in the game in the first place. And I'm saying that our young men, and I'm talking about the Black community right now, I mean, but all communities actually, we are smart enough collectively to shepherd our kids. We are. Medea did it. Big Mama did it. TT did it. Okay. So what have we lost in my generation and the generation just under me that we have let our kids become boy men, you know, and girl women? What is it? What is it? Okay. You know, and so part of it is a failing on us. Okay. A failing on us to say, you will not bring drugs into this house. You will not sell drugs on this street. You know, you are going to be in when them street lights come on. You are going to do that, you know? And so to me, I'm telling you, for young Black kids, that's our only salvation. We've got to turn back into the resources in our community to marshal and protect ourselves and say, Travis or Cleotis or Ophelia, whatever, you are not going out there. You're not going out that way. And that's it. I'm sorry. God bless y'all. I'm through.
But also, Attorney Mack, I believe that also I agree with what you're saying about, you know, taking responsibility for your family and your people. But also, I think it's also our responsibility to demand more of the people that we have in elected office. That's true. And that is on us as well.
That's true.
We cannot, you know, say, hey, you know, have these conversations with our kids and know that, you know, if you drive through Livonia, sundown town that I live by, but sort of.
Don't you tell Mike Duggan that. Don't you tell Mike Duggan that.
That, you know, my kid can't come home from work because he got to drive through Livonia, so he has to figure out. No, I think that we have to, you know, put people in place that, okay, I'm tired of that. This 2024, my kid is doing everything he's supposed to be doing. Mm-hmm. And I need elected officials that are of the same mindset. Mm-hmm. We have these old mindsets and stuff that are running rapid, that's in control of a lot of things, that's constantly holding us back. And that's why we have to hold on to these old narratives and old policies, and talk to our kids in ways that are, kind of ancient, because we still have these kind of people in control. Right. And that's on us to get out here and vote. Right. Get, look for younger leaders, look for people who have the same mindset of you, or think some of the same ways that you think. It's up to us to do our due diligence. So when we have a Trump, or when we have this kind of election that we're having right now, where we're teeter-tottering off of both of them, we know at home we're good because we got the right lawyers. The judges and the right people we voted in as city council, and those people who really affect our daily lives, and on the federal level, hopefully we won't get there, because we have processes in place on a local level that will help us not to go to all the way to appeal to a Supreme Court that we know is not standing with us and not feeling us right now. Nobody that's, fighting for a wrongful conviction on any, level, no matter who you are. So I think that's also our responsibility as well. We have to do more, be more engaged of what's going on in our local government.
Yeah. Can I say something on that line?
Yeah.
This is why, you see, the system is always going to prey on individuals who value their own advancement over that of the collective. And let me speak specifically about Black people, okay? About Black people, okay? Now, there's a congressman from Florida named Byron Donald, okay? Black guy, okay? There's a congressman from Texas. I think it's Watt. I can't remember what his name is. But anyway, there are a group of these Black men that represent 95% white congressional districts, okay? Republicans, okay? And what happens is, what's used against us is some of our own quote unquote people. And, counsel is much more my people than Byron Donald is. Okay. She is much more my people. But just for purpose of this discussion, let's just talk skin color for a moment. Okay. And so what's happening is that what we've got to realize is the mechanism of misinformation and disinformation to stop us from the one thing, the only saving grace in this entire system, and it's called a vote, okay? To stop us from that. Now, when people say, well, I'm torn between the two, I'm flabbergasted. I'm flabbergasted, okay? Because, I would much rather have a headache than a lobotomy. Okay. So when people say they torn between the two, I don't get it, y'all. See, because if we're talking about we got two choice, we got a binary choice. Okay, one is the headache line, the other is the lobotomy line. My black behind is in the headache line. Okay. See what I'm saying? Is in the headache line. So what I'm telling you is this. In this election, regardless of what you think about Kamala, the worst she's going to give you is a headache, okay? But the other man will give you a lobotomy with a sledgehammer, okay? So all I'm saying is this, is that when we let people come into our communities and disinform us, or make us think our vote means nothing. And by the way, we've got some celebrities that have that. Did you hear what Janet Jackson said about 3 weeks ago? I thought Kamala Harris's daddy was white. Now, see, what is wrong with her? What is wrong with her? That ain't no Rhythm Nation stuff she talking about, control,
And we thought Michael Jackson was black. Okay, I'll stop.
Yeah. Now, see. Look. Don't get me started now. Now, Janet, don't you be talking about you thought that Kamala Harris' daddy was white. I could say that about Michael. So what I'm saying is this. That was the most advanced case of vitiligo I've ever seen in my life. And so what I'm saying, but see, I can understand the vitiligo, which I'm not making fun of. But what's up with the pointy nose thing? Now, see, I don't get that. See, that part I don't get. That I don't get. Because if you look at Michael Jackson from when with the Jackson 5 back in the day in Gary, Indiana, big air-sucking black nose, okay? Black nose, okay? And then in the latter years, I mean, this man, could have been Pinocchio's cousin. So I don't understand what's up with that. But anyway. So all I'm saying is that we have a responsibility to make people accountable and say, now, wait a minute. You talk about don't vote. And J. Love, with all due respect, you remember about 3 or 4 months ago, we had a brother on here that spent some time, came out of New York. Remember what he said to you? You remember that? I ain't voting. And you remember the conflict he and I had? Remember that? Mm-hmm. Okay. So what I'm saying is that our responsibility is to not let the memory of King, Medgar Evers, Rosa Parks, Viola Liuzzo, by the way, people don't give her the proper respect because she was a woman of privilege. She didn't have to go down to, Mississippi, Alabama. She could have stayed right up here in Livonia, perfectly safe. That woman sacrificed her life. Yes, she did. And so anyway, so my point is that when we let these people just come in or say, I'm not going to vote, Donald Trump is promising you he's going to solve the crime in Philadelphia. He's going to solve the crime in Atlanta. He's going to solve the crime in Detroit. He's going to solve the crime in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. He's going to solve the crime in Houston. Now, I asked my young black people, okay, and I'll even put a 20-second timer on it. What do all them cities have in common? Oh, did I say Detroit? I'm sorry. What do all them cities have in common? And you heard him say, I believe in universal stop and frisk. You heard that. I'm sure you heard that.
Yeah, you did say that.
And
we haven't even hit the absolute immunity.
Absolutely. See,
you see what they're doing with qualified and everything they're getting away with qualified immunity.
Look, and so what I'm saying is, and remember the disrespect to people from S-hole countries. Remember that. Okay, this thing about the Haitians are eating cats and dogs. Don't forget that. Okay, that is a racial whistle. It's a dog whistle. Excuse me, whatever I'm trying to say there. Okay, about those mud people. You notice when we talk about people that are immigrants here, we never talk about the people from Europe who overstay their visas. You notice we never talk about fentanyl coming in from the northern border with Canada. You notice we never ever talk about that. America's got a northern border too, folks, in case, people have forgotten about that, okay? We never ever talk about that, okay? They could be bringing fentanyl in by the truckload, okay? There's a bridge council between Detroit and Windsor. What is that? What
they just caught somebody about some millions of cocaine just the other day coming off that bridge.
Off the new bridge. And then isn't there the Windsor Tunnel? I mean, there's a tunnel. Too, you know what I'm saying? So what I'm saying is,
build a wall.
They forget about that. They so busy talking about the wall. We got a whole 2 bridges and a tunnel.
That's right.
2 bridges, a tunnel. Yeah, and definitely coming across northern,
right.
The northern part. We don't.
About 3
Russians are
even.
It's not just. We have immigrants everywhere. You got Russians coming in from the north part of through Canada, coming into United States.
Yeah. So
we don't get all the information.
Right.
And we just go with whatever. And I mean, we digress. I'm getting ready to stop talking, but I need to say this one thing because Attorney Mack brought it up. The one thing that did happen, though, is that at least Carrot Top allowed us to be known in Detroit. Because if she wins, then everybody's going to end up like Detroit.
You know,
what is that?
And like the man said, you should be so GD lucky. Okay. You should be. Oh, yeah, but see, but I'm gonna tell y'all, boy, he should have never said that, boy, because I'm telling you, I mean, I hate to say about black people, but I'm telling you, you may have a hell of a time waking them, but damn, once they're awake, they're gonna stay awake. And so when I think that whole thing about Detroit, that is a personal insult to them people. That is a personal.
Right. People woke up like, what?
Ooh, ooh. Anyway, I'm sorry.
No. Well, Attorney Bess, we really enjoyed you being on here with us tonight.
Yeah, it's really great to kind of be back and, see you again. And I appreciate the opportunity. And, it's like I said, it's just always an honor to, meet fellow travelers and people in this space. And, so many good people trying to do the right thing. It's like people just have to keep on going. Hopefully.
Yes.
But it's going to be a journey. I think, I try to always kind of end on a positive, note. But I mean, we've got some challenges ahead. We got some real challenges, but people they win their cases. And, I think, one thing I enjoy, and I think is important is, how people are beginning to use all these different kinds of medium to get out the message, with podcasts and social media campaigns and all the rest of it. Because I really think it's going to take grassroots. I think it's going to take people, politicians. I mean, yeah, we all want the right politicians in there, but no politician has ever lost an election for being too hard on crime.
Right.
But they'll lose it every single time if they're perceived as being too soft on crime.
Right.
And I think that that's a real problem. It's hard to even kind of get the politicians to have meaningful conversations about, the problems here. I was talking again, friends about this the other day. It's like, we here in the United States, I mean, we made a decision, right? We were going to treat drug use as a criminal problem and not a healthcare problem, and the consequences of that is, our exploding prison population. So there are those kinds of policy issues that, is in the realm of these politicians that we're electing, but they're never going to have the conversations we need them to have, because the second you start saying, maybe we ought to be thinking of this in terms of healthcare, that person's going to lose their next election.
Yeah.
So, so try to do my little part to help who I can.
You did a great part. Deidre said it was the best $26 that she spent.
Well, she must have bought two then, because I don't charge that much.
She bought one for herself and her son. So yeah, I think I agree with you. The grassroots is going to change the narrative. I think right now, because they get heavy on crime during election time, and then once this is all over, people will start back going talking about, or there'll be rumblings about reform and stuff, because everything has calmed down again. Yeah, I just think that the more knowledge that we have, the more things that we know and understand, that will help us in the long run. And you just have to remember, this is a fight for your life. So you have to do everything you can to fight for your life. And if that means, investigation, whatever you got to do, find that information out, find the best attorney, find your attorney that's going to find you, call Attorney Mack or whoever. That's going to be a pit bull. Whoever, you know, this is what your focus need to be, you know. So our teacher said education is the key. Yes, it is.
Yep.
So thank you for joining us. We appreciate you. Hopefully you'll come back again when you write your next book. But even before that, you're always welcome to come and chime in on something that we got going on.
Excellent.
Maybe you will come and join us 1 year for the Wrongful Conviction Summit.
Yeah. It looks like it's going to be a really, important event. So it's great that you got a lot of people showing up. I think that just looks great. That's fantastic.
Yes. We're very excited. Again, you guys, tomorrow is the summit. So join us. It's at 11 a.m. Please be on time. It's at the Gethsemane Missionary Baptist Church. We have an awesome exoneree panel, and Mr. Beat the Odds is the moderator.
Are you going to video it? I mean, are you video?
Yes.
Okay.
It will be live streamed through Gethsemane Missionary Baptist Church website,
awesome.
Facebook page. And we'll be sharing that on our pages. So yeah, you'll be able to, if you can't make it there, you'll be able to watch it. We also are going to be filming a documentary. So during the summit is going to be filmed, and then there's going to be a documentary taping going on as well. Awesome. And next week, you guys don't forget to join us. We're going to have Miss Diane back and Mr. Beat the Odds. And the wrongful conviction conversation for this month. So again, thank you, Attorney Bess and Attorney Mack and Reverend Tia, Littlejohn. And do you guys have anything you want to close out with, Attorney Mack?
Well, yes, I want to say this. Someone put on the Cryon a little while ago that they only took 2 pounds of fentanyl in the Border Patrol from Canada. Well, first of all, just because, assuming that's true for a moment, just because 2 pounds was taken doesn't mean 2 pounds is all that was coming into the country. All right. So if you have slack enforcement in one border, the northern border, than you do in the southern border, you're only going to get a small portion of the drugs that are actually coming in because you don't have the resources to plug all the holes, okay? So it's very deceptive for someone to say, well, we don't have a problem on the northern border because they only found 2 pounds of fentanyl. Well, I'm not sure if I can put a qualifier on a person's life, okay? So fentanyl is fentanyl. So there's no question that drugs are coming in from much more than the northern borders, primarily through the ports. Okay, ports. You know those big boxcar containers that they load and unload off of ships. Okay, it's next to impossible to search. There are tens of thousands of those that come into the ports of the United States. Impossible to search all of them. That's point number one. Point number two. When you have a system or a party or a politician who says, I don't want more agents on the border. I don't want more fentanyl detecting machines. I don't want more courts to process these folks that are coming in. I don't want to do that because I want to get reelected president, okay? That shows you right there, if they have such little concern for the southern border, they damn sure don't have any concern about the northern border because protecting you is not their goal. Their goal is to get elected. So let's keep all that in perspective, folks. I respect whoever wrote that Cryon, but the facts are the facts.
Yeah. Reverend Tia.
Yeah. Thanks, Attorney Mack. And might I add, the people where the fentanyl and all the other drugs are being dumped into the different communities, those people cannot afford the transportation. They can't afford all the trucks and the trains and the planes and the boats might I add, ships. Okay, let's keep it real. When these drugs come into the community, they are dropping it into communities where they can't even afford the transportation of it. And people are buying it. And it's a risk to the community and to their own bodies.
Mhm.
So we have to see the whole thing. And so my last words, attorney, you shouldn't ignite that kind of stuff near the end of the show. That is, put on new glasses, y'all. We got the summit tomorrow. Get a new perspective.
Yes.
Stay positive in knowing that the power is within you to make the change. And that change happens when we come together collectively with new glasses on, new vision to see the possibilities. And I love it, Elizabeth, because what you put in that book is strategic ways. Why? Because she's seen that there is still a possible way to win. It's a possible way to make an appeal, but you got to be strategic about it.
Yep.
You have to be able to see the victory before you even start.
Yep.
That's right.
Thanks, Jay. Thanks, you guys. I'm excited about tomorrow.
And again, get the book. It's on Amazon. Get the book. We'll be waiting to hear your results.
Right.
Thank you so much, you guys, and everybody else who's in the Michigan, Detroit, surrounding areas. We'll see you tomorrow at 11 a.m.
Yes.
Good night, everybody.
Woo!